Ladies and gentlemen, it's currently July 22nd, 2023, and as of this morning, a world champion has been crowned in the world of chess. But on a more important note, it's my grandma's birthday, so happy birthday, Grandma. And after I make this recap video, I'm actually going to get on a little call with them, chat with them, show them the dog, and it's going to be a great time. Also, happy birthday to any of you, in case it's your birthday as well. On that note, it's time for the final three games of Zhu Wenjun versus Lei Tingjie. This is the Women's World Chess Championship 2023, a best of 12. And yes, after 12 rounds, we do have a winner. We pick things up in round number 10. I've been making recaps thus far. The match is tied. 4.5, 4.5. Zhu Wenjun has 3 games to play. So does Lei Tingjie, but Zhu Wenjun gets 2 games with the white pieces because that's the way the colors were drawn. And she is looking to punch her ticket early. She plays the move knight to f3. In fact, those of you that have been watching all of the recaps know that the last time that Zhu Wenjun played with the white pieces, she played a ready with e3, b3, and g3. Very sideline type of stuff, taking her opponent out of any known territory. And she won a long, complicated game. So obviously, if something works, you then proceed to play it again, or for the rest of your life, like in your case, right? All of you England Gambit players, you're kind of like addicts, right? No amount of rehab is going to help, unfortunately. But she plays the English. She does not play b3, g3, e3, and she is looking to play in English, e6, e3. Her opponent plays in a very principled way. Lei Tingjie, she plays the the Queen's Gambit declined, b3, bishop to b2, and now take. And in this position, there are 3 approaches by white. Approach number 1 is to play d4 immediately. Approach number 2 is to play bishop b2. And approach number 3 is to play bishop b5. I like to play bishop b5 because I like to put pressure on the knight and then play d4, take, and play against the hanging pawns, right? Zhu Wenjun plays bishop to e2, which is completely reasonable. Now, if black plays d4, white could get their bishop trapped if white is stupid. She's not. You might get your bishop trapped. I'm not saying you're stupid, but I'm also not saying you're not stupid. Aha, there you go. Anyway, a6. A6 is effectively saying, well, you're never going to get the bishop to b5, and also I'm going to play b5 and maybe c4 and maybe d4 and maybe d3 and trap your idiot. Oh, that's a blooper. Trap your bishop like an idiot, like Gotham said. Trap your idiot. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the bishop is an idiot. That's hilarious. Oh, I can't wait to see that in one of those Gotham compilations. d4 takes, knight d4, and Lei Tingjie is playing with what's called an IQP, isolated queen's pawn. Bishop b4, bishop blocks. Why is Zhu Wenjun happy to make this trade? Because when you play against an isolated pawn, it's good to trade pieces, because that pawn is going to very slowly lose defenders and become unguardable. Bishop d6, black does not want to trade. The knight goes to d2 because she wants to create a blockade on the square in front of the pawn. And now it's time to have a maneuvering game. Position looks really nice for white. Nice blockade of the pawn. A fundamentally unsound decision here would be to do something like this, when you would just be helping black out. But this pawn would become a bit of a weakness. So knight to f3, knight e4, knight to d2 back. Now, I really wonder what would happen if Lei Tingjie just repeated moves, right? I mean, I don't think that there would have been a repetition. You will also notice knight f3, knight d2. Zhu Wenjun spent 23 minutes on this move. Had to calculate that real quick. 23 minutes. She went knight f3. Her opponent played this in about 7. Then she went, you know what? I'm not sure I got anything better. So she has a great position, but it's really hard to make progress. Why? Let's say you try to make a move like bishop to d3. Knight b4. Then you're like, oh, damn, I don't want to lose my bishop. Queen f6. Okay, I'm going to play a3 and kick the knight out. Yeah, but now you can't take, right? So let's say you play, I don't know, something like rook a2, queen h6. And all of a sudden, it's actually black that has all of the attacking possibilities. So she realizes that and goes back to d2, and her opponent takes the knight in the center and does the exact same thing I just mentioned. Rook h6, rook g6, all of this nasty stuff, queen h4. Looking for checkmates on this side of the board. God, I am hot. It is hot today in New York. Oh my goodness. And I can't even turn the air conditioner on because then you're going to hear the annoying noise in the background. f4. Bishop c5. Take. Here, take. Massive exchange. Bishop c5 was offering a trade of bishops. Might have been a bit of a rush decision. Maybe black should have gone rook h6 and continued with that plan, because after this, white is able to get a centralized queen and then also win a pawn and then queen b7. My friends, this is not the first time in this match. If you've been following this match, we have had a recurring motto. Lei Tingjie hates pawns. She has been down a pawn in 3/4 of the games. I don't know what it is about her playing style. She is never up a pawn. She is always down a pawn. And right now, it's a very bad pawn to be down. She is down a queenside pawn. So if the game just proceeds, I know the queen is hanging, but just like bear with me for a second. A position like this is very difficult to defend with black. Like, very difficult. Because white is going to try to expand over here. I know the computer says it's equal, but the computer is a scumbag. You would lose this position with black. And white, probably. The point is that white just has a majority. So if a rook is traded, if a queen is traded, like white is going to very slowly grind black down in the endgame. And again, the Stockfish is going to defend this position successfully by restricting the white position, creating checks. At top play, this is draw a bull. At your level, it's really not drawable. Queen d5 though, rook d7, and black continues the pressure, right? Queen c6. Very difficult now for white to try to make progress because the pawns have been split. Rook d8, and Lei Tingjie still has enough here. She just stays active. Look, she's threatening mate, rook a2, queen c4, a lot of pressure on the position. She trades, and now she takes, and this is going to be a draw because both sides have exactly symmetrical pieces. We go to a rook and pawn endgame, and I'm going to hit the forward button. Just a friendly reminder, like, you know, you gotta understand, moves like rook b4 just lose the game. Take, king d4, f5. King d4 is a draw, apparently. Is king e5 winning? Yes. f6, king e6, you force the king back, and then you go after this pawn. King and pawn endgames are very sophisticated. Had you rushed, black would have played f5, and then we would have had a gigantic race. Look at this insanity. a4, king h3, a5, g4, a6, g3, a7, g2, and we queen at the same time. Anyway, TLDR, game 10 is a draw, and after 10 games at the Women's World Chess Championship, it's 5-5. So it's going to come down to the last 2 games. If one of them can win, they're going to pull away. If Lei Tingjie wins right now with white, Zhu Wenjun is going to have to even out the match. But we know it ends in 12. So either this game or the next game has a winner. We have an Italian. Lei Tingjie plays an Italian. d3, bishop, and knight c3. Knight c3 and a4, very exotic stuff. Not c3, knight d2, knight f1, h3, like the maneuvering Italian. No, she plays knight c3, a4, super, super big sideline. And then she plays bishop g5. So all of her pieces are out. She's trying to expand here and also prevent black from expanding, and the bishop is always able to drop back. Black plays bishop e6 to fight back for the light squares in the center. We have take, and now the light squares in the center are being dominated a lot. This is very intense. Knight to b4 hits the bishop. She says no. Now, at this point, Zhu Wenjun has a big decision to make. She can play c6, d5, or she just plays d5 right away. I like this less. I like c6 a little bit more, but it's a bit slow because the knight has to go back. So d5, take, castles, and now white just has a powerful bishop. And is going to spend the rest of the game applying pressure and really just trying to break, and that's exactly what she does. She's going to play rook e4. Look at this. Look at this titanic battle for e5. This. I would argue that white's bishop is better than black's bishop, but there's a lot of pressure here, and it's not very clear. Now look at this, h4. And if left unchecked, white is going to play h5, g4, g5. Like, it could get very ugly, so h5. She's like, no, you actually cannot attack me. g3, g6. Okay, now what? Unstoppable force, immovable object. Pressure in the center. Looking like we can break through, but black's position, everything is very, very well defended. If you play something like c4, that's a disgusting move. Because after knight b4, you have to sack your pawn. Because if you don't sack your pawn, your bishop just dies. Okay, you can attack the rook. Congratulations, the rook will move. So this is a very unpleasant position. Queen e2. Look at the tension. a6, a5. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. Every piece is staring at a central pawn. Queen d7, the knight starts rotating. The queen pokes out. Now Zhu Wenjun says, why am I getting bullied? f5. Look at this. The rook is pushed back. The king slides out of the way of the pin. And now black looks to be taking over this game. The pawn here is loose. Knight c4, the king walks up a little bit. Bishop slides back to c2, queen c7, queen g2, knight back to f6. Pawn f3. She's blocking her queen out, but she's stopping e4. The e4 square is being stared at by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4 black pieces. 10 pieces stare at e4, and g3 gets some vision on it afterwards. Is the position at any point going to expand? We have a massive building tension. And all of a sudden, on move 34, e4! The position is exploding! Oh my goodness. Ju Wenjun has had enough. She has 6 minutes to make 5 moves. White has to be very careful. If she takes like this, double check and the game is over. Double check and she is going to lose. So she takes with this pawn. F e4. If you play d4 here, it's c5. It's e3. It's blocking the queen from the defense. So king c1, Lei Tingjie castled just to walk her king all the way back. F1, e1, d1, c1. Look at her king. Knight takes e3. In this position, pawn sacrifice. Knight to e3. And in this position, Ju Wenjun has one of the most disgusting stockfish lines I have ever seen. She is unable to play bishop g5 and pin the knight to the king because the pawn is covering the g5 square. So instead of that, Stockfish recommends that you play bishop g5 anyway. What? How does that make any sense? Okay, pawn takes. Well, now you play queen takes g5. And if you play rook e1, rook e8, king to d2, right? That's what it looks like. So after rook e1, you don't play rook e8. First you play rook f8. The queen slides back to g1, so now there's rook f3. King to d2, rook g3, and apparently black is winning. So what do you do after rook f8? You don't play queen g1, you play queen g2. But then this is unbelievable stuff. Bishop to g5 to bring out the queen, and then play rook to f8. Not rook e8, but rook f8. And the whole point of that is that if you just play rook f8, knight f5 check is a counterattack. So black has to sacrifice the bishop to open up the f-file. It's absolutely insane, and it's all because the light-squared bishop is dormant. That bishop is just standing on a shelf. It's not actually participating in the game. So Ju Wenjun actually has an opportunity to sacrifice the bishop and win with black. I'm not saying she would have won if she played bishop g5. It was still very complicated. But with just minutes remaining on her clock, she goes here instead. And unfortunately, that gives just enough time. And now if you play bishop to g5, let's not forget, this is too slow. So now if you try to go for the exact same line, I can run. I mean, you are not fast enough. I got here in time. So rook e1, knight takes e3, and now all the pieces fly off the board. Black grabs a pawn. It's queen bishop 5, queen bishop 5. And after a maddening scramble, the game ends in a draw, and it all comes down to game 12. Winner takes all. Next point wins in basketball on the court at the playgrounds. Here it is. Ju Wenjun is with the white pieces. This is her 6th game with white. She's already had 6 games with black. She's going to try to win. Will she overpress? That is the major question. Tensions are high. She plays d4. She goes away from knight f3, e3, b3. She goes to the main opening of her repertoire, pawn to d4. We have d5, knight f3, knight f6. And in this position, we have e3. That's a big sideline, e3. E3 is a weird move. A lot of people, if they don't want to play c4, they play c3 to try to play a London with a slightly different move order, because against the London, their opponent wants to go c5. So they play c3. Oops. So they play c3 so that their opponent can play c5 and then they take. Usually against e3, people don't really play c5. They can, of course, and that's what actually happened in this game. But generally, they'll play e6, knight, b6, something like this. Lei Tingjie plays c5. Okay. And now, Ju Wenjun sends it back to the system that she wanted to play, which is this. She takes on c5. This is not a queen's gambit. This is take on c5 and hold on to your pawn. Pawn to e6, and in this position, b4. That's rare. This is very rare stuff. okay? And a friendly reminder that generally these lines where you try to hang on to your pawn like this, they happen like this. c5, takes, e6, b4, a5, right? e3, and now we go back to the exact same system. Take, undermine. If take with check, right? And that's exactly what's gonna happen in this game. It's the same position. The exact same position, just with a slightly different move order. She played e3, she grabs the pawn, and she builds up this pawn mass on the queen side. Gives the check on b5. Perfectly reasonable move. Bishop d7, trades off. Now if you play c6, there's bishop b4 check. You definitely don't want that. So instead of that, white plays a4. And the idea of a4 is that after takes, there is b5. This is an absolutely fascinating position. White has two passed pawns, A, B. No pawns in the way. If this was an endgame, it would be game over. White would just be winning because the black king would need to stay occupied against these pawns. And in the meantime, white would just go on to do other things and try to attack in the center and probably try to win. But it's not that. And what this is kind of what's called a reverse note boom. There's an opening variation where black actually gets these passed pawns. So queen c7, bishop b2, bishop d6, and both sides castle. Winner take all. You literally cannot ask for a better game where somebody needs to win. It doesn't get any more imbalanced than this. Knight bd2. Now, black has multiple options. Black can play rook fc8, black can play e5, black can play c4 and bring the knight, right? Like I've had this position myself with black. It's actually quite terrifying. Rook c8, queen c2, and now we advance with the move c4. There's good and bad with c4. It's also a good idea to go here, but that removes your control of the light squares. And after e4, if you play d4, I just get a dominant position with knight c4. And you'll notice the eval is skyrocketing because this bishop is dead, blocked in by its own pawns. These pawns are now going to come alive. Look at the eval. It's just growing more and more because black is just going to lose. Rook b1, bishop to c1, and I just push my pawns, and I win. So if you're playing with black, you cannot get blockaded, okay? You cannot get blockaded. c4, bishop c3, white is trying to blockade these pawns and then play a5, b6. The closer that white gets to promoting, the pawns are going to become a greater asset because they're going to take a lot of squares away from black. Or they'll become a liability because white is going to overextend and lose one of them. White also doesn't want to be blockaded, which is why white is trying to escort the pawns along the dark squares. Knight c5, a5. Oh my goodness. This is really, really bad. Black now has to play knight d3, allow b6, and try to blockade on the light squares. Okay? That's what she has to do. It's a very terrifying position. Look how close the pawns are to queening. It's very unpleasant. All it takes is a momentary lapse of focus. Rook b1 is there, a6 is there, you just lose. I mean, also there's just b7, okay? There's just b7, obviously. But that's what's gonna happen. So, Lei Jie plays knight b3. And the idea of knight to b3 is that if takes, and this opens up, right? So knight to b3. And the other idea is that if something like rook a2, you can maybe already take on a5, right? With something. Or knight takes and then knight e4 and bring a second knight in this position, needing to win the Women's World Chess Championship. Ju Wenjun plays bishop takes f6. Gives up the rook in the corner and comes back to take it, even if it costs her one pawn. This is nuts. It's a rook and a pawn for two pieces. 7, 8 times out of 10, the two pieces are better than the rook. Why? Because just count the material. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just have 5 pieces. I have more pieces that can do something. All right? We both have bishops, but I have knights, right? You have 2 rooks, and the rook's power grows the closer you get to an endgame. And I would argue that we are pretty damn close to an endgame. So in this position, Ju Wenjun plays queen c3. Spends 19 minutes and offers a queen trade. Black takes. And now an endgame, an imbalanced endgame of 2 knights versus a rook and a pawn will decide the Women's World Chess Championship in 2023. Rook b8. Knight d4. The pawns are blockaded. Can the rook wander in here? Yeah, but it's not actually doing anything. So it might have to attack the bishop, which is very well protected, and then white is going to bring the king, all while keeping an eye on these pawns. And it's not, you know what's amazing for black? Black has 6 very healthy pawns, and I got news for you. It's not easy to push any of them. She tries. But the second that she tries, that's weak. So now knight f5. If you play e4 here, you're a lunatic because your pawns have no mobility. I mean, obviously you'd also hang a bishop, but just in general. So the bishop goes back to f8. Giving up this for this. Now Zhu Wenjun will never promote a b-pawn. The game is now going to be decided in this rectangle. All of the A and B lines are dead. The only pieces that can claim any territory here are black's rooks, which are very powerful. G4, it's an interesting move. G6, kicking out the knight blockades, the rook infiltrates. But I told you a little while ago, the rook infiltrating doesn't do much. What black should have done here is played something like rook b6. White would love to get all their pieces stacked and pressuring the black position. Black needs to kick out the bishop. So in this position, Zhu Wenjun finds the move that may win her the world championship match. She plays knight to b1, undeveloping her knight, completely unafraid of rook a1. Why? Because of the blockade. Now black cannot protect themselves against d5 and ultimately the loss of the c-pawn. This is why two pieces are oftentimes better than a rook, because there's just more pieces. The rook cannot even get close. The rook cannot even defend the pawn. There's nothing the rook can do. Can't even give a check. Can't move anywhere. Can't move here, 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 or here. Can't go anywhere useful. So knight to b1. Lei Tingjie plays this, and unfortunately, she now has to play defense. But here comes rook d1. White just has more pieces. A value of a rook is 5 points. Value of a knight is 3 points. But the relative value of a piece, depending on the position, goes up and down. This is a 4-point rook. These are not 3-point knights. Rook to d6, b6, knight back to e2. She brings the king. She advances forward. She plays rook c1. She plays knight f4. Who's going to guard the pawn? I got news for you. Nobody. She has to give it up. But now Zhu Wenjun has a passer. g5. But now look at the blockade of these pawns. Knight e2, she tries to break away, but gf, and it doesn't matter. King e3, the king is coming. Knight f4, let's not forget the king is also an endgame piece. Rook b8, there goes the pawn. Rook f6, rook c2 sliding up. Knight b5, the knight's dancing. Knights come back to the center, king is moving up. It's a beautiful display of piece harmony. Every single piece is participating. This is a true group effort. c3, like the Miami Heat. Knight e2, except against the Nuggets. Rook b2, king d3, but everybody lost to the Nuggets. Rook b1, knight c3. My friends, the pawns have fallen. Lei Tingjie tries to play this, and now we see the idea of rook to c2 so many moves ago. Do you know why she played rook c2 6 moves ago? To protect the rest of the pawns. Because 6 moves later, when Lei Tingjie infiltrated the position and tried to get one pawn back, pawn to f3, defended. She just has more pieces. Takes, rook f1, knight d4 back. This game is going to be decided by one pawn and one pawn only, and it is the d pawn. Rook back to b2, king c5, knight b5. She gallops forward, pawn to d6. Black's time is up. Pawn to d7, the pawn is going to queen. Knight d6, rook b8, sealing off the rook. If you give a check, it's just a matter of time. I'll play king to d4. The pawn is going to promote. And it was in this position, 62 moves into the final game of the Women's World Championship match 2023, that Lei Tingjie resigned and Zhu Wenjun defended her title and is now, I believe, the 4-time Women's World Champion. It came down to the wire. Regardless, the title would have stayed in China. It would have either belonged to Lei Tingjie or Zhu Wenjun. And this is actually the first time that, since I believe the Soviet Union existed, that the two chess world champions are from the same place. So China's got, I mean, I hope there's a strong youth movement going on in China to play chess. I know it's not the most popular there. Plus there's also Chinese chess, which is a thing. So incredible stuff and a great fight to the very bitter end. And what a move, what a way to win. And what a fight. I mean, knight b1, knight c3, the backwards knight move, creating the blockade on the dark squares for the pawns. Very instructive, very nice positional game. And there we go. We won't be having any world championships for a while, so this is our last one until this year. We have the World Rapid and Blitz in 2023. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage. And I'll see you in the next video. It won't be a recap, but you know what to do. Get out of here.